is Chris Evan, and I'm the CEO of Survival Dispatch. I was a member of our national powerlifting team for many years and won many state, national, and world championships. Even though I'm in great shape for being 55 years old, I am not immune to father time. Most of us feel weaker and make more trips to the bathroom as we get older. U.S. Army research has led to a breakthrough for the #1 water for older Americans. It's not a special sports drink, but a mix with essential nutrients most hydration drinks lack. Keyword, hydration. These nutrients are proven to enhance muscle strength, reduce soreness, and improve bladder health. A Texas doctor leveraged this research and formulated a drink mix to help you stay strong. Click the link below for up to 44% off at nativehydrate.com/dispatch, plus free shipping and a free gift. This is one of the best deals I've seen for high quality BCAA drink mixes. And we're back. And we've got a bunch of familiar faces and a special guest tonight. And I'm going to let the good doctor introduce herself in a minute so that I don't do her any injustices. And between myself and Doc James, we got Doc Pete back. Good to see you, Doc.
Good to see you, sir.
You seem to be very energized this evening, by the way.
We've had a day.
And a little bit of caffeine, right?
A lot.
Hey, the Zen pouches, they only go in your mouth.
Too funny. We got Major Mike Hall back with us as well, and our in-house Mad Bomber, Mike Sterling. So, Dr. James, I'll let you introduce yourself, and while you're doing that, I'll pull up some links to your website and whatnot.
Cool. So I'm a former trauma surgeon, critical care physician, trained in Iowa, University of Minnesota. Basically quit operating in about 2016 to do ICU care exclusively. Ended up getting tangled up in the COVID mess in the ICU, took care of about 2,000 COVID patients before I got fired 18 months in, 4 waves of COVID in for not getting a COVID shot. So that kind of threw me into a different realm. I opened James Clinic and we treated about 4,000 COVID patients with early treatment, lost only 20. And of those, 30 to 40% were critically ill, stats in the 60s and 70s. We kind of got national notoriety for pulling people out of hospitals. We called it a jailbreak. And we were 100% successful. We were able to operationalize that with ICU nurses and set criteria so that we could get people out of the hospital. And our patients have no long-term side effects. They're doing well with no long-term lung issues. So we now have James Clinic. We've obviously switched off of COVID and we're on to integrative medicine, doing a lot of integrative cancer care and other things for people who don't trust the medical system anymore.
And there's no shortage of people in that bucket, that's for sure.
Yep.
So I'm going to bring up y'all's Facebook page on the current mission that you've been on, which is really the crux of the matter tonight. The medical center that you set up there and some of the trials and tribulations of doing this. So I'll let you describe what you set up there. And I'm also curious to hear why you decided to go to North Carolina.
Yeah, so I was following this on Twitter, which is the only real place to get news right now. The mainstream media is not covering just dropped everything, and a team of 5 of us came out. A nurse and I flew as the forward team, not knowing where we were going to land or where we were going to stay. And en route, we just made all these connections and ended up at the Avery Airfield. We were invited in by Judges Rescue. That's an NGO we were working with, and made a lot of partnerships there. So we showed up on a Sunday night around 6 o'clock, and they showed us around. And Monday at noon, we were ready to rock and roll and see patients. Wow. So we brought some supplies from our own clinic, EKG machine, ultrasound, IV fluids, enough to get going and take care of the basic stuff. We had no idea what we were walking into.
Yeah. So, Doc Pete, when did you cross paths with Dr. James and all of this?
Right. Yeah, it was great to see her out there. You know, our team went out, our advanced party team went out with Mike Hall there, and and some of the other guys on the team earlier, and I was closing out a mission in Texas. So I was able to come in about a week after they'd been on the ground. They had already interacted and got to know Mollie. She's easy to get to know. She's got a great personality, and you judge a lot about somebody by the people that they hire and they bring on, but also who they run around with. When I fell in there, their staff was awesome, stellar, from all over the country. Pretty interesting to see civilians running operations like we do downrange, right? You come in, you find a place, you look for work, and she was in the most probably strategic place you could possibly be with regard to initial response in the field, with the civilian airport there, but personally owned, privately owned airport that was conducting a pretty robust effort there to distribute as well as to be a kind of a first responder. We also ran each other out in the field with regard to wellness check, specific one that we both ended up on the exit at the same time, which was pretty cool. Hey, listen, this is how it looks when you get out there. I've done a lot of hurricanes from Katrina on. And then, response to an earthquake in Pakistan and a tsunami in Thailand. This is what it looks like on the ground. And it reminded me a lot of what we would call a basic, field station or an aid station, something like that. I know that, you guys are going to get into the weeds on what ultimately happened out there, but what they were doing, exactly what I would do in the same boat. So hats off, Mollie. It was great to see you, but that's kind of how this stuff works. It's we the people, we the remnant that shows up in times like this.
Just a quick note to our insiders: the brief for this video hasn't been posted because we switched up the format a bit to accommodate some schedules. It will be posted shortly after we wrap up this evening, so you'll have all the links and everywhere to go to. Mike Hall, were you all flying out of the Avery Airport? Did you end up there by design, or was that just happenstance?
It was a God thing, 100% a God thing, to be honest with you, because we rolled in there, like I've told you, I know we spoke about this, rolled in before with sleeping bags, 2 tents, just enough diesel to stay warm if we were going to get too high in the mountains. And before we got there, we had a place to stay, a compound that was already getting formulated. And then the very next day when we were on the ground, we were told that we needed to go see the Avery, or just to go see an airfield. We chose Avery. And then we walked in, and of course I knew the judges people. And then Miss Mollie was there directly after that. And it was exactly what was needed at the time. I mean, that field hospital, that center right there was exactly what was needed. It's exactly what you see downrange or in any kind of catastrophic emergency or event like that. So, I mean, people were getting shelled out of the mountains, drove down in the mountains. There were a lot of diabetics and things like that needed some pretty quick care. And then Mollie and them were able to handle that real quick.
Yeah, that's awesome. Dr. James, I was actually going to ask, what was the workload like when you got there? Was it just wide open from the time you landed?
A lot of it was just organizing incoming. There were all these donated supplies, and people were, making connections. Who has what do we actually need? We didn't know. Rumor was that one of the hospitals locally was going to go down, that they were going to have to close and evacuate. That did not happen. But we had no idea. And the closest hospital after that is 45 minutes away with 8 beds. So we just had no idea what we were going to have to handle. A lot of it was taking care of volunteers. There were about 100 people on the airfield that were running 16, 18 hours a day that were not stopping to take care of themselves. So some of them, developed symptoms, chest pain, dizziness, lightheadedness, just fatigue and exhaustion was a lot of it. But there were people in the community that they couldn't get into their primary physician because they were 2 and 3 weeks behind because they didn't have internet, they didn't have power, they didn't have water. So they were trying to get out of a hole and get caught up. So we really were trying to support the local system, but fill the gaps and get people what they needed until they could get back into where they should be going.
Yeah, appreciate that. Mike Sterling, what was the workload like in Tennessee relative to all the stuff that's been going on in North Carolina? Was it exactly the same?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was almost round the clock. I'll tell you, those fobs and the fobs in North Carolina, as well as the fobs in Tennessee that I visited, all of them operating in exactly the same method. You could tell it's vets that are running these things because they're all laid out the same. They're all operating in the same manner. You walk into the talk, all the talks are laid out exactly the same, almost like the same people taught us all how to lay out a talk. Weird. But running like a sewing machine 20 hours a day.
Man, that's awesome. So how long were you there, Doc James? Then I'll have Doc Pete speak to this as well, because we've already got people asking with regards to the government. I don't know what the right word is to use here, but shenanigans maybe. So how long after you got there, Dr. James, did this happen? And explain what exactly happened here.
So I was there for a week on the ground, and I committed a team back home that vetted, and we were going to book it out for 4 months. We were going to staff it. So we initially said 4 weeks and then 4 months. So we were recruiting volunteers. We were vetting licenses. I can only stay for a week because I have a clinic I had to run. So I went back home and was connecting people from home. About 3 weeks in, I get a call in the middle of my day that the DEA, the DHHS, the North Carolina Board of Medicine, and the sheriff were at the door of our little volunteer operation. So you can imagine the chaos that created and the stress that created with volunteers who just showed up to kind of help out. And then from there, the rumors went crazy. Obviously with the DEA there, we were doing something illegal. We were doing something illicit. And it ran wild. And the first call I actually received was a week prior. The DHHS called me and said, "We understand that you're operating a hospital. You didn't pay for a license. So what exactly are you doing there?" And they had a list of questions. They didn't really tell me what the issue was. And eventually we got down to the fact that they didn't want me to call it a hospital. So, like anything bureaucratic, it could have been a very simple conversation that lasted way too long. And I said, "We'll just not call it a hospital. How about that? We'll call it people helping people, because I don't think you can regulate that." So they pursued to send me this cease and desist letter to not call it a hospital. So talk about a waste of government resources.
Why am I not surprised? So that was the Department of Health Services. How about this one here from this Avery County manager? Was this all related? Was this tied to it?
So the letter was the week prior. We said, we're not going to call it a hospital. That's fine. I understand where that could create some confusion. So we stopped doing that. And a week later, when these officials showed up, they said, "We're shutting you down." That was how they presented themselves to our volunteers. And I told everyone, hold the phone just a minute. Nobody can shut us down. We're not doing anything wrong. So what happened is they said DHHS has set up a clinic around the corner, which they didn't have at week 1, 2, or 3, but week 4, they figured out how to get a tent up there. Wow. And said, "You're no longer relevant to what we're doing because we have something in place." And I'm just going to make my own comment. We have a pretty high functioning clinic, if you will. We stay out of the system as much as possible. So we had a lot of assets with us. This was a Band-Aid station with a doctor and a nurse who could do vital signs, and that was about it. They sent people to the pharmacy. They sent people to the ER. They couldn't do nearly what we could offer where we were. So instead of coming, not one person has talked to me directly. What they did is they put pressure on the gentleman who owned the airfield and squeezed them to push us out.
Unbelievable. I'm going to read.
Daddy drinks because you're stupid.
Yeah, I'm going to read this just quickly because some of our viewers are on phones and it's too small for them to pick up the text on this. But this was the email that Dr. James received from the Avery County manager. The subject was closure of medical center at Avery County Airport. Avery County Airport Authority members, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services has set up a mobile field medical center at Mayland Community College with the location of MCC on the border of Avery and Mitchell counties. This center will provide services to both counties. Therefore, the medical center at the Avery County Airport is no longer applicable for response to Hurricane Helene. Please remove the center by 5 p.m. on Sunday, October 27th, 2024. when did you receive that email? Like, how much notice did they give you on this thing?
I believe they gave me that email on the Friday before I was supposed to be out. And again, keep in mind, I'm in St. Louis running things.
Yep.
So I've got volunteers on the ground that are trying to figure out what are we supposed to do. What we ended up formulating is a plan to divvy all of our supplies up and send it to other clinics that were working in the area. And then we just distributed it out. So at least this stuff could be used that was donated.
You didn't actually close up though, did you?
We did, because they wouldn't allow us to stay there.
I was not aware of that. Okay.
That sucks.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I got to go to Doc Pete, because I know Doc Pete, much like our mutual friend Todd Callender, loves to go toe-to-toe with the government. So, well, shall I say the prior government, not the incoming admin.
Right.
Doc,
Yeah.
I want to hear your thoughts on this. This is the bureaucracy run amok again. To the
Right.
detriment-
So I'll just say I like going toe to toe with incompetence. I'll just put it that way.
Fair enough.
That's what that was.
Government.
You know, Doc Mollie called me and asked me to look at it, and I said, doesn't surprise me. You know, consider changing the name, you know, whatever. And that's usually what befuddles them, is like, oh my gosh, the name's changed. What do we do? And so they just double down, and it, like she said, a simple conversation. But most of the people that I've ever dealt with in any public health, and from Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, you know, other events around the country, typically public health folks, and it's not all of them, they're just the cream does not rise to the top. All right, it just doesn't. You know, those are typical people that, it's just like in the AMA and the AOA. You know, you see the people that just don't really have jobs. They rise to the top because they can't really run a clinic. They can't put their hands on people and actually help them, right?
We promote our problems up.
Right. And so when they can't do that, what do? Well, they become tyrants, and they start like micromanaging everybody else who is functional. And so when you see that happen, and these are prime examples, it doesn't always happen, but when you see things like that, that's what this is. Is it indicative of somebody that is embarrassed because they weren't doing something early on? So the state was not there, or the particular agency was not there, was not represented, and they are embarrassed because somebody from out of state came in and did the right thing. Where I would be like, hey, thanks a lot, and use you over here, and we could augment you or whatever. You know, when I showed up out there, I didn't have certain things. I walked in there and said, hey, can I get this, this, and this, and this, just like I would downrange in one of our aid stations. When I show up in the middle of the night and, you know, outer or outskirts of Afghanistan. That's what we do, right? And that makes us more effective overall because it's helping everyone. And so it was indicative of a failure, incompetence, and the inability to communicate, right? The old movie Cool Hand Luke. I'm a lot older than some people here, but Cool Hand Luke, you know, he's like, what we have here is a failure to communicate. That's what that is. It's right there. Failure to communicate. It could have been easily taken care of. And thank goodness for the people at Avery Airport, the manager, and all those people that actually own it and all that. Great people. They got strong armed. I know that for a fact.
Yes.
I mean, it seems to parallel the Peanut the squirrel and Fred the raccoon type mentality that some bureaucrats have, where they're concentrated on completely the wrong things, especially in a horrific situation like this.
Affirmative. 100%. Yeah.
Well, over on our side, the only time that you would see, they had the state of Tennessee DOT came up to one of the communities that was 15 miles of knocked out roads, and told them, hey, you're going to just have to leave the community. It's going to be 2 years before we can get up there. The next morning, their boss got a call and said, hey, you need to get out here. There's an NGO, Grindstone, was out there, and they were already a mile into the woods. So it shamed them into having to go to work.
Right.
And that was how we got stuff accomplished.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mike Hall, when you were flying into the areas that you couldn't get into by road, did you have to do any evac, like med evac, for anybody and bring them down to see the doc?
Well, we did some ground escorts, as a matter of fact, from Spruce Pine area, and then brought them into Miss Mollie and them, Dr. Mollie. And then, but as far as the air drops, no, not so much for that. We couldn't do any air evacs necessarily because we didn't get the call for them. If we got the call for them, of course, we'd have reacted. But as far as them getting ran out of Avery, that just really chaps me pretty bad, because as soon as they just showed up, a good tactic that has served me well is agree with everything they say. Yes, sir, no, sir, whatever you are, and then keep doing what you're doing. And then they come back after they get wind that you're still operating, be like, yes, we meant to. This just buy yourself some time and use every excuse in the book. No, when they get all good and pissed off, say no habla inglés, just anything, and then tell them you all have COVID and that you're quarantining yourself in there for 14 days, and just flip the system on them. And I'm being dead serious about it. That's what you have to do with bureaucrats. And what are they going to do?
Mike,
I mean, you flip the system.
Are you a member of the E4 Mafia? Because that is a straight up E4 Mafia slash Lance Corporal Underground kind of move right there. And I applaud you, sir.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's effective.
Yeah.
Mike Sterling, I'm starting to see a pattern here. Doc Pete, we had Patrick Byrne on last night, and he was telling us how he was sending in these reports of like a progress update on his missions, and he put in one of them that he drugged this girl and essentially raped her. He didn't, but he put it in there because he knew it was either going to go to Obama, Comey, Brennan, or somebody like that, and it went to Obama, and Obama signed off on it, and Patrick Byrne did it as a kind of protection, that if anybody questioned what he was doing, he could say, well, it was authorized directly by Obama. He was okay with me doing these things. So this sounds similar, Mike Hall.
I'm telling you, man, it works every time.
So
modern problems require modern solutions.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's
right.
right.
I want to bring up an ex-post from Ann Vandersteel, and I see that she provided some amazing coverage of the hurricane relief. Doc, is she friends with you by chance? I just noticed that she had a lot of stuff on y'all. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry, I'm muted. Yeah, she was embedded with us for a while because when I got on the ground, she was already there at that same compound where they were living. So she actually jumped in, and she was instrumental in helping us with and us helping her, as far as getting into a certain FEMA camp that was being built there, and then also with regard to paying attention to the water, because we were doing water samples and getting those things out to Brian Artis and to Mike Adams to evaluate that. So it's kind of nice, when you got somebody with a press pass, you kind of it's one of those things like, these are not the droids you're looking for. And one of our guys was her producer, had a clipboard. He's never done that in his life. He's like, yeah, I'm her producer. Yeah, we're coming right in. So that's just what we do. But yeah, and she's good people. I've been on her podcast before, and she's been in the fight with us.
Just quick question. I'm going to read this again just because of people who are on phones. It's really hard for them to see. But did you happen to cross paths with anybody who was distributing these Sawyer mini filters by chance? They reportedly donated a ton of them. I'm just curious if you cross paths with them at all.
No.
All right. Okay. So let me read this so it's not quite such an eye test for our audience. So for me and Vandersteel, government does not want people helping people. True. Dr. James Medical Center, established and helping people at the Avery County Airport, has been asked to leave. According to the NC Department of Health and Human Services, they're asking the Avery County Airport Authority members to cease providing medical services. This request resulted in the James Clinic operation needing to be shut down by 5 p.m. October 27th. When people have lost everything, including cars, home, medical supply, and clothing, why would you not want additional medical clinics to help these people? Overregulation killing people again. So, Doc James, was this specifically targeted at your operation, or were there other people impacted at the airport?
I initially thought I was targeted directly, but we were partnering with Heal Corp as well. And they were also sent correspondence that we're good. We're not supporting any outside medical assistance at this time. I can tell you they're not good. I can tell you people cannot get up into these haulers. The roads are still out. There's no way an ambulance can get over these roads, especially today. It rained all day. So areas like Bat Cave, they're not going to be able to get an ambulance in there. They can barely get UTVs through there to check on people. So they're not okay. And, the biggest thing that we're finding is people aren't coming out and asking for help. We have to go door to door. We have to let people know we're there. We have to go with locals and build that trust before they'll finally tell you, I really need this, or the guy down the road needs that. It takes a long time to establish that. And what I don't like is all of this went down when I wasn't there. So I didn't even have a fighting chance to stand up and push back, because I can't ask a volunteer to do that. So I'm here now, and we went mobile. So we're operating out of an Airbnb, and we're carrying backpacks, and we're going to different communities and checking on people and bringing them supplies. We've been buying RVs for people. We've been buying deep freezes. We're working with judges to rehome these families that DSS is threatening to take their kids. And we're just doing that kind of humanitarian work more than medical stuff right now. That's what people need.
Can you dive into that for a second with regards to, we call it DCF here in Florida, Department of Children and Families. What grounds would they have to take children away from their parents?
There's two main ones that I've been made aware of. The first is the shelters are all closing, and most of the people in the shelters were families with children. So the shelters are closing. They have nowhere to go. And if you don't have a home with running water and a bathroom, you're considered homeless. And that is neglect under the statutes in the state. So we're trying to get them in RVs so they have a bathroom and running water. The other thing is they're reopening the schools, and the kids can't miss more than, I believe it's a couple of days of school, or they're considered to be truant, and that also would apply. So, a lot of these families don't have cars. They can't file an insurance claim on their car because it got washed down the river, and they don't have a vehicle to file a claim on. They don't have roads. So how they think that people can get their kids to school when they're trying to put their lives back together, I don't understand.
I don't know if you know the answer to this question or not, but why are they shutting down the shelters?
That's a great question.
Great question.
Yeah.
So Mike Hall sent me a number of pics of what y'all were doing there, and I'm going to bring them up, and all y'all can speak to them as you want. So was this the one at Avery Airport, or was okay?
Yeah, so we had cots, we had oxygen concentrators, EKG machine, ultrasound. We were trying to get labs. We really need to be able to do a BMP because there were so many diabetics who were out of control and dehydrated. We had no idea what their electrolytes were coming in. That's my nurse, and you'll probably recognize some familiar faces there. Boone Cutler and Chad Caden. These volunteers were really killing themselves, and those are vitamin infusions that we have hanging. I don't know anyone in the traditional medical system who hooks people up with vitamin infusions.
That is awesome. I have a friend of mine who's a MD, and he's got some other certs, like he's a DC as well. He's a big believer in those vitamin injections, and I've had a couple from him, and there is a noticeable difference if you're run down. No ifs, ands, or buts. This one here, I'm assuming this is one of your volunteers?
Yep, that's one of the volunteer nurses. So it was a little garage area. We have a couple of fridges there. We had refrigerated medications. We had an IV mixing station over there, IV antibiotics, oral antibiotics to distribute. So that's that one. We had a crash cart. We got boxes and boxes of supplies every day that they had to sort and organize. And a lot of with medical, people don't even know what's in the boxes. So you have to have kind of a trained eye to know what supplies are sitting there. I found a box of oxygen regulators, critical if you know what they are and you get them where you need them.
Where did all these supplies come from?
I have no idea.
No
they
kidding.
Just showed up.
Wow.
Yeah.
All over. They came from all over. They really did. Dan Nunez and his wife that ran the POD there at the airfield, they were getting packages from Washington State. Wow. On the daily. They were getting 18-wheelers a couple of times a day from all over this country coming in there. And they were the federal PODs would turn them away. And then, hell, we just redirect them right over to where Avery was at or where our other friends were at over at the church. But, yeah, we were getting 18-wheelers over there just daily.
Wow, that's
Everything,
amazing.
everything you can imagine in there, from dog food to
yeah.
medicine.
Oh,
Yeah, it's heartwarming to hear that. Just out of curiosity, what was this picture you sent me, Mike? This pop up?
Oh, that was
That's
just
a frame
the
tent,
field tent
man.
there. That didn't.
Okay.
Yep. It's just like we do downrange.
That makes the top of my head hurt just looking at it.
I know.
Man, the supplies are pretty awesome. That really is heartwarming to see the donations that were made. Oh, so this one you can see the garage door actually. And this is the one that got shut down, Doc James?
Yep. That's where they came. And I guess the medical board inspected and told somebody we were doing everything okay, and they left. The DEA officer called me the following week, and what had happened is people were donating their used hydrocodone and things. And so once we identified that, we put it together and we locked it up, and they were real concerned about that. And I said, listen, can you just take it? We are not distributing it. We're trying to keep it locked up and safe. This was not an ideal circumstance. You know, nobody's distributing drugs here. Can you just come get it and destroy it? And like, this is over. Like, this is being way blown out of proportion. So
Sounds, yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. Doc Pete, I mean, the DEA investigating this, really?
Yeah, you know, I mean, this is if the NGO was a like on the border, the NGOs we deal with, if it was a leftward leaning NGO that was conducting the movement of children to an institution that where we don't vet the parents, but we go ahead and send them out. I worked a case in Austin of 119 kids sent to 5 sponsor families, one of which was illegal themselves, that was tied to the cartel. You know, this is the kind of stuff that doesn't get investigated. However, when you come in with a good heart and you're conducting operations in a very official, professional manner, that doesn't matter. What matters is it doesn't fit the narrative. And so we got to stop with the narrative stuff and just say, you know what, just let us take care of people, because that's what we do. I mean, that's Mollie's heart, and that's her whole staff's heart. And there was another doc there. I believe she was a pediatrician. I'm not sure. Yeah. And she was the one I saw in the field, and I came back and I saw you afterwards. But, you know, when you're going out in some of these very dangerous areas and you're bringing, you know, a welfare check to those people, there's nobody else doing that. The government isn't out there doing that. We don't expect them to do that. We know from experience they're not going to do that. So we have to jump in there. You can't just leave these people hanging. And winter's coming. It's here now. And our team's going to go back, you know, when it gets really cold up there, and we're going to start dropping in some supplies from the air and coming in from the top down, because there's so many bridges that were out on the way to some of these places. That's what we're going to do. And she's going to be out there until they get done with their mission. And that's how we roll.
So JJ Carroll was telling me that somebody came to him. There had been a conversation between a couple people that were CBP. And of course he was CBP for 24 years. Right. And one of the people said to another person, this is like the 30th kid that we've sent to the same address in the past week. You know,
Yep.
Don't you think we should do something?
Yep.
And the other person's response was, no, not at all. And the other person said, but it looks like this is, you know, child trafficking here. And the guy's response was, reportedly, it's hearsay, of course, that the people in child trafficking, they don't file reports, therefore it's less work for us. I kid you not.
Not surprising.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to hit this person with a 2x4.
Yeah.
It's very incongruous how government agencies can treat Dr. James the way that they did, but completely turn a blind eye to the big stuff that's going on. I mean,
because they're lazy.
Well,
I mean, let's face it, government jobs normally draw inherently lazy people.
Fair enough.
They do.
There you go.
So, Dr. James, tell me the story of this one here. I mean, what happened to that poor young man? He looks emaciated.
So that is young mama, and she had 2 teenage boys, the one standing with her, and then her other son that you see there, he's actually special needs. He has a genetic disorder and a much shortened lifespan. His legs are kind of up in a fetal position. He types with his toes. He's wheelchair bound. So what happened is their home got washed away, and she was with the boys trying to hang on to them, trapped in this home. Her father washed away down the river. He was able to swim back at one point and then got washed away again. So she's lost everything. You can imagine she has no vehicle. She has no home. She has no yard to put an RV on anymore because it washed away. So we ran into her again. This is a mom with no home and teenage sons. So Judge's Rescue came in. They got her a home. He, again, has special needs. She doesn't have a way to make an income right now. She's been taken advantage of staying with friends. So we have an Amazon wish list up to help get Caden going again. He needed an iPad. He needed a computer to be able to do what he does. She's trying to get in with medical care. She was sick herself, being trapped in the fumes and dehydrated and stressed with all of this. So we have a Give, Send, Go set up for her. We have our Amazon wish list there. So if anybody cares to contribute, if you can check that out, I know she'd be grateful. And she was one that didn't want to take help. You know, we spent a lot of time. Robbie with Judge's Rescue did a beautiful job with her and helping move her into a home. So
that's the ones you help. That's the ones you throw your back into.
And she was more concerned about her son, of course, than she was herself, but needed sheets and blankets and pillows and pots and pans for the kitchen, like literally had nothing.
And is that the Give, Send, Go that is on your company website, jamesclinic.com? I thought I saw.
There's a specific Give, Send, Go in that thread. So,
okay.
Yeah, for just some spending money for her. And then the Amazon wish list is there. The Give, Send, Go on our company website is ours to support what we're doing with the RVs, to purchase just whatever people need. So, you know, like I said, a deep freeze so that we can deliver meat can be delivered to a community that's remote and people can come in and, you know, at the hub home and get that. So those are more pictures of that's her home. The bottom right picture on that second one, that's their home that got destroyed.
Wow. Unimaginable. So I scrolled down and I see the Amazon list. And the link to this is in the brief for tonight's video. So if you're an insider, head over to patreon.com/survival dispatch. Whether you have a free account or paid account, all of the briefs are available that have all of these links. So if you are so inclined to donate, this looks like a very worthy place to do that. Moving on to the next one here.
Hey, Chris.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've got to make a hard time, so I'm going to have to bust out. Unfortunately. So Mollie, hey, I hope to see you out there. God bless you, and keep up the good work.
You too. Hope to see you soon.
Appreciate your time, Doc.
Yes, sir. God bless. See y'all. Peace out.
Mike Hall, do you need to jet too?
No, so that's where he's going. He's going to go set the stage for us, so I'll be over in a little bit.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to ask you, Doc, on this one that was sent. Now I've watched this video. It's 6 minutes long. I don't think I'll play the whole video, but I'll tell you what, I'll play the beginning of it and then I'll have you explain it.
Today is November 7th. And I guess this is a little bit of a 40-day update. I'm currently walking along the riverbank here of Shenandoah Valley home. And it looks a whole lot like day one. There is so much garbage and so much debris. It seems like no matter how many people come, how many volunteers show up, which has been a ton, there's this feeling that it's almost impossible to ever have this normal again. There's so much trash and there's so much garbage and debris. I'm literally standing where there used to be no houses. And there's cars and houses piled up here everywhere. And this is just a small stretch. It's all over these rivers. I've talked to a lot of business owners lately, good friends of mine, and all of them are getting denied, no matter if they have catastrophic insurance, flood insurance, everything's getting denied. So they've just kind of been on their own. Talking to a lot of our friends that were affected and lost their house to the storm, they're all getting denied. We have a lot of houses here that are down to the studs that are ready to go with crews ready to build back. And then our county comes in with a bunch of red tape and condemns the house, or says that they have to reevaluate the floodplain, and it's going to be a while to get through that process.
Here we go again with the government overreach. Michael, you've participated in a number of relief efforts after natural disasters. Ballpark number, you don't have to make it, an exact prediction, but how long is it going to take for this area to recover, for Western North Carolina to recover from this?
No, it'll be a decade. It'll be a day. I know that sounds like a long time because it is a long time, but man, when I didn't even realize until we left North Carolina, Western North Carolina. We went through the kind of back way through Tennessee because there was a traffic jam and some other bridges out on 40, and all the way through, what is that called? The French Broad River. Now, yeah. Mike, you probably know what I'm talking about. That French River, man, is like a couple of prongs. All through there looked just like that for miles, and that's only what we could see from the road.
Yeah. So, man,
and having survived a few floods on the Sabine River here in Texas, Louisiana border, it's going to take 10 years, man, just to get anything to look in the way it was.
Easy.
And
there's some of those areas up there that may never go back to the way they were.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
We talked to somebody.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, sorry. They had a 4-acre garden. It's gone. It slid off the side of the mountain.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
Well, like those folks that I was telling you about, Chris, that they woke up in the middle of the night, walked out to their front yard to just see this wall of water coming, stepped off of their porch, and the whole house washed away, and then all their land washed away with it. They had about a 15 by 20 foot patch of dirt left up against the street and their mailbox. That was everything of their world that was left. Everything else was gone.
Yeah.
So I don't know if y'all have seen this, but we have another tropical depression that they're saying is going to be a tropical storm by tomorrow and potentially a hurricane shortly thereafter. I mean, the spaghetti models here show it impacting us in Florida primarily, but I mean, I've been through countless hurricanes, and this early, this far out, that doesn't mean nothing. This could very well track the same way and go straight up towards North Carolina. Yes. Mike Hall, when are y'all heading back to North Carolina?
I think, things changed the past 48 hours, but we're going to still try to get out there next week. Get out there next week for sure. Yeah, I've got to spend some time up there. We got some sources developed and some other things that we need to work that way. And then, but then we'll be, in and out of that place for over the next, I'm sure, a year, but at least 6 months.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they appreciate it for sure. You and Doc are amongst the most patriotic people I've ever met before. Doc James, you still have people there in the Airbnb, and did you say they have like an RV that they can take around and treat people in, or another vehicle?
We're trying to get a vehicle. We have a UTV that we can use in the Pensacola area. We're trying to get our own UTV. This is our first time in a disaster zone. So literally just this week, we have our 501c3 set up.
Okay.
One of the big concerns is as soon as the snow comes and the freeze in the springtime, all this land is going to resettle and reshuffle. So one of the missions of our nonprofit is to raise $1 million to establish another, like a mobile home park where people can just leave the area and go, because again, they still have mortgages and they still have land that's supposedly theirs that they're just it's not there anymore. So that's one of the initiatives. Corey Schonhorst is working with our nonprofit to raise funds, and we have something coming that's going to be a whole new need come spring.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling even for somebody like me from Florida, who again has seen countless hurricanes do destructive things here. It's just absolutely mind-blowing. Since we've got you on this evening, and since there was a really big announcement today, I'd like to hear everybody's opinion on Trump naming RFK to head up the Health and Human Services Department. You first, Doc.
I think this is Trump telling us that, hey, these shots were not what we thought they were. And we're going to make amends and we're going to make it right. And we desperately need this. 90% of the medical profession fell on their face during COVID. I've lost so much respect for colleagues that fell for the propaganda instead of, what they were seeing in front of their own eyes. And it's still going on today. So I couldn't be happier.
That's great. I'm happy as well because, I mean, if you look at the ingredients in our processed foods and then you look at the same product from the same company in another country, we've got 30 ingredients. The other countries have 3 ingredients, sort of thing. Mike Hall, what are your thoughts on RFK Jr.? I think this is going to scare the shit out of the pharmaceutical companies. And I noticed that Moderna in particular today had a massive crash in their stock when this was announced.
Exactly. And I didn't know much about him until here recently. And he's really become a friend of the party. I'm tracking. But that right there is what I was hoping for. That pharmaceutical just uproar, just turn us on its head type thing. And I think that's what he's fixing to do because, as Dr. James can attest to this, it is beyond out of hand. It is beyond out of hand the way these pharmaceutical companies are just running amok. And then the money involved of here is going to be so hard to fight. It is so hard to fight that much money. We're not even talking about the $1 billion, but tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions over the last decade alone in just this one industry. That makes them way too powerful and a lot of bureaucracy on that.
And a lot of Americans don't realize that the largest lobbying body in DC is the pharmaceutical industry. And the military industrial complex pales in comparison, which is absolutely astonishing. I mean, Doc, while I've got you on, I want to come back to you, and then Mike Sterling, I'll give you a chance to comment on RFK. What are your thoughts on pharmaceutical? I know we're off in the weeds now, but what are your thoughts on pharmaceutical companies advertising drugs on TV? What purpose does that serve other than for somebody to go to their primary and say, give me this?
Yeah, I don't play sports, but I think that's running defense, right? Because if you control the media and you control the news, you control the narrative. So when doctors, my colleagues and friends, were trying to speak up, we were silenced. I'm still silenced on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. Twitter is the only place that you can get that. So when you advertise like you do, you control the news, you control the story. So I think that's a lot of it. And the one thing that Callie Means has said that I like is an executive order day 1 to end direct-to-consumer advertising, because that single-handedly takes care of mainstream media and mainstream medicine all at once.
Yeah, agreed. Are you familiar with Todd Callender, or do you know Todd?
I think a little bit.
I'd like to do an introduction by email, if that's okay with you. Todd's a very good friend of mine. We work together on an almost daily basis. He was the lead attorney on suing Lloyd Austin and the DOD. There were 51 attorneys, and he was the lead attorney because he's licensed federally, and he's also been in front of SCOTUS before. But he's the CEO of a global insurance company along the lines of Berkshire Hathaway. He's the owner of the Cloud Hub social media platform, and he's a very interesting guy. And he led the charge on some of this stuff. And I got to be careful what I say, because this is being broadcast to some of the non-free speech platforms. But he just launched, and it's a soft launch, probably what will become the largest global class action lawsuit in history as it relates to, let's just say, microwave radiation. And that website is projectarchimedes.com for anybody who's watching out there. It's going to be a really, really big deal. So, Mike Sterling, apologize for passing over you. Comments on RFK Jr.?
No, let all this cook. I mean, everybody covered it. I mean, this is a game changer right here. This is what we've been looking for, what we've been hoping for. Doc Mollie, if you don't mind me asking before we get too far in this, we've had a lot of people in the audience asking for your Twitter handle. If you wouldn't mind tossing that out, so that we can all start following you.
Hey, that'd be awesome. At Mollie James.
There it is. That's great. I had it pulled up already because I was going to share it when we got to the end here, but
there we go.
Now's as good as any time is.
Right, exactly. Hey, I got to tell you, you're doing great stuff. Is there? And I know I'm kind of going backwards here a little bit, but do you have need of more medical professionals that can come up there and assist?
Yeah, one of the hardest things, we had about 50 emails a day coming in for volunteers. We were very well organized and we had a game plan, and that all got upended when we had to pivot. So that slowed everything down. So yes, we need medical volunteers. We are respectful of the system. We want to get people with their docs in the hospitals and all that. We're not interfering. But there is a definite need for outreach. And I just need people who are willing to roll up their sleeves and do whatever. This week, my team has built sheds, bought sheds, driven them around. We're just working with different teams and trying to make those connections. So we do need volunteers. They can email mission@jamesclinic.com. If they're medical professionals, we just need what state they're licensed in so we can ping their license and get them on the schedule. We have places for them to park RVs. I have an Airbnb now. We'll find accommodations for them if they'll come. So yes, we need them.
Fantastic. So before you leave us, Doc, and Mike Hall as well, one of the things I insisted on when we acquired Survival Dispatch and we started Survival Dispatch News is, we pick something that's at the top of the news cycle, therefore it's top of mind. And so we report on it, we editorialize it, just like everybody else. But the one thing that not many podcasts do is we give our audience homework. In other words, actionable things that they can do in light of whatever the conversation was. Renee, Drew, thank you very much for the support. So I jotted down a couple things, but I'd like to hear your thoughts, Mike Halls and Mike Sterling's, of course. So the number one thing I have is for people to stock up on their prep so they're prepared for natural disasters. We're not doomsday preppers. We tell people you should prepare for whatever the most likely thing is. In Florida here, hurricanes, right? So when I say stock up on those basic preps, that's, first aid kits, seeing as we're talking medical stuff tonight, prescription medications, food, water, ammunition. Second bullet that I have is don't forget your fur babies when stocking up on preps. And number 3 is to make sure that your SHTF comms are in order. And I'm sure Mike can speak to that in a second. But Dr. James, your thoughts on what else people can do?
Yeah, I'm not a prepper in any way, but I'm asking for a chainsaw for Christmas. So
you're asking for a steel chainsaw for Christmas, not just any chainsaw. You want a steel chainsaw.
Maybe someone who knows how to operate it as well, because that wouldn't be me. But yeah, I'm actually doing a community outreach in a couple of weeks in my hometown. We're going to talk about this and we're going to start the discussion. Orange spray paint, you need that. And we have the rapid radios here that were donated to us because there was no cell phone service. So the safety of our team going up was a huge issue. So yeah, I'm not a prepper either, but I need a 4-wheeler and a UTV and going to make some definite changes the way I live. Maps, right? There's no cell service. So nobody knows how to read a map anymore. And I think we need to get back to print maps. So
agree 100%. Mike Hall, your recommendations for our audience to prepare for this type of disaster.
First of all, some surgeon can't even operate a chainsaw. Okay. Second of all, we've got to get another charity going called Doctors Without Diplomas. That's really what we need up there is doctors without diplomas. Just people that want to go up there and help, like Dr. Mollie's doing, going door to door. But again, I always start, with the root produces the fruit, right? Everybody get your castles squared away. This whole, how do you beat trillion-dollar pharmaceutical companies and bureaucrats? Well, you teach your children and those in your house that just because you have a headache, you don't need a hydrocodone. Just because you got a little nail fungus, you don't need this and that. And before you know it, you're on a dozen different medications and you're hooked on these medications. That's like we always talk about what you can prep for. The things you can learn inside your house. Don't let the teachers in your community raise your children. The drill sergeant should not be raising the people, the recruits that are coming into the boot camp. They're there to turn you into a military, whatever it is, soldier, Marine, whatever. We've got to start in the house. It starts in the house. We've got to get ourselves squared away. Like I always say, know who your sheriff is, know who your mayor is, know who your Congress people are before you even think you can fix the nation. If you can't fix the pothole on your street, I guarantee you can't fix the budget. So
I'll tell you what, Mike Hall, I don't care what Doc Pete says. You're all right in my book.
All right, just so for the record.
He says a lot. That's right.
He says you're a one-man show is what he says.
Mike, you're a good guy. I got something for you.
Yes.
Got you the 16 pack. Get them out of your teeth, though. Okay, before you go
right.
you go online again. That's right. Get the crayons out of your teeth.
Did I hear a rumor that Marines like the purple ones best, Mike? Is that what I heard, Mike Sterling?
I heard that too, but I know a couple of them that like the green ones better. So I think it's all personal preference.
All right, fair enough. Your thoughts before we dismiss the doctor and Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that, a lot of the things that the doc and Mike have been preaching here, have your maps. How long have I been saying it?
Yep.
Know how to read the maps. Skills trump gear every day. The more you know, the less you need. We saw so many preppers up there that lost everything and had no skills to back it up.
Wow.
So possession does not equate proficiency, period. And I know that is an unpopular thing for me to say, but I don't care. You're going to have to sit on it. Meds. If you have meds, you should have a 90-day supply. Stack them up. Work with your doctor to be able to get those things. I know it's difficult, all right, but do your best to have a 90-day supply. If you got a 90-day supply, that's going to get you over the hump, especially if you're a diabetic. That will kill you. If there's something out there that you've got that will do you in short order, you should probably have at least a week's worth of those meds, minimum, for God's sakes. I keep antibiotics. I go through Jace and have Jace cases, man. I'm telling you, I've got enough meds in my house to be able to handle just about everybody that I need to handle. Right.
Jace will now help you also with stacking up the prescriptions that you have. We've got a discount link for them somewhere. I don't remember where it is, but I'll see if I can't hunt it down. But Jace for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're and I know a lot of people just like you, Doc Mollie, that they went up there not as preppers, came back. We are calling this event prepper evangelism, because there's a ton of people that came out and said, that's it, I'm a prepper from now on. I used to pick on you. You knew exactly what you were doing. And comms, without comms, you have nothing. Without comms, there's no intelligence. Without comms, there's no logistics.
There you go. All right.
That's right.
Dr. James, do you have any parting thoughts you want to leave with our audience? By the way, for the audience, Mike Sterling and I will hang around and do the normal stuff that we do at the beginning of the videos after Dr. James and Mike Hall leave us. But parting words, Doc?
Just if you're out there and you care about your fellow man, you don't know what's going on with North Carolina, hop on Twitter, follow people so that you do know what's going on. These are involuntary participants in a disaster. They can't get away from it. They're living in that mess and chaos every day. It's, they're getting weary. They're getting worn down. They need help, and we need lots of boots on the ground helping them. So the need is infinite. And, I would ask people just to be generous. We're also doing a toy drive to try to get some normalcy for Christmas. So just stay tuned. I keep posting the needs, and the country's been generous. They knock out these Amazon lists in an hour. So I'll keep asking, you keep giving, please.
That's fantastic. That's great. Mike Hall, parting words?
Oh, man, just like Dr. James said, PHP, right? It's all about PHP, people helping people. I love that. And, I'm all about we the people. Get your homes fixed, get your castles squared away, know who everybody is that can help you and what you can do for them. And let's move into next week and try to save some lives and make some people's situations better.
Well, Doc, Mike, appreciate your time. Appreciate all your efforts. So y'all are doing God's work, and look forward to seeing y'all for the next one.
Outstanding. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mike, take care, brother. See y'all now.
Be Bye, cool, Doc. Man.
You bet.
All right. So I'm going to go back up to the top of the brief, Mike, and just hit a couple things. So as y'all noticed at the beginning of the video, this one tonight is brought to you by Native Path. And you've heard me discuss them recently as far as their branch chain amino acids are concerned. I got an email yesterday from somebody who asked me what exactly BCAAs are, what the benefit is of them, blah, blah, blah. Here's the deal. Human growth hormone has 191 branch chain amino acids in it, or amino acids per se. And all of them do different things. So there are peptides out there that are going to become legal under RFK, by the way, that the big pharma has railed against. So peptides would be considered right now by the FDA like research chemicals, but they're not research chemicals. Some of them do phenomenal things. There's one, I think it's called BPC 157, that is shown to heal connective tissue. So when they were doing tests for it, they would cut the Achilles tendon on a rat, inject it with this BP 157, and the Achilles tendon would regrow and attach itself. So point being is that what's in this drink mix is not like other drink mixes. Number one, it tastes great. And if it doesn't taste great, I can't get behind it because I just flat out won't drink it.
Well, you're
But
picky.
I am picky. But also the added benefit here, and I've been consuming BCAAs for many, many years. I can tell you right now that when we've been on the road and I've run out of BCAAs, I can absolutely notice a difference in all kinds of things, especially my energy level. When you all see me with a cup like this, even before we started working with Nature Path, it was BCAAs. So
you were out in Vegas, and I wanted to throttle you half the time.
that's nothing new. What's your point?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Solid.
So anyway, Native Path, one of the sponsors tonight, actually bring my drink back. CCW Safe. I've mentioned this before. I'm going to mention it again. And by the way, one of the founders from CCW Safe will be with us tomorrow evening. Tomorrow is actually a really busy day. So we've got JJ Carroll coming on for a special episode at 5 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. We've got the founder of CCW Safe coming on at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Saturday night, I'll probably be solo with some highlights, stuff that's lighthearted and funny on Saturday evening. Sunday evening, we have Brad Wozni back, who has some amazing stories to tell. He's very close with General Valley. They work together on a daily basis. Monday, I've got our friend Mike Glover booked, but that schedule may change. So if he's not here Monday, it could be another day next week. And then Tuesday, we have got Pastor Artur Pavlovsky, who is world famous. He left communism 30 some odd years ago, went to Canada, and they turned around during the COVID stuff and put him in jail for 55 days for delivering sermons when public gatherings had been outlawed. Phenomenal guy, phenomenal story. And as per usual, we're absolutely blessed with the incredible guests that come on Survival Dispatch News. The other sponsor for tonight is Sawyer. And I'm going to let Mike talk about QA/QC on this in a second. But this little sucker is rated for 100,000 gallons. There's bags that you can put on the end, or you can, oh, sorry, right there. So that it's threaded. You can put it on a water bottle that you put in some turbid water and hooked it up to that and squeeze it and drink it. They've got bags that hook on here. I have cut a bunch of these open, plus their competitors. We are not in the business of hurting other people's businesses, but I have a video coming up soon that shows you the internals on these versus some blue ones, let's say. And we'll let you judge for yourself. But I despise water treatment products because most of them are snake oil. These guys have taken a weight off my shoulders. Mike, tell us about the QA/QC behind these guys.
Okay, so anybody that knows me knows I am a huge water nerd. So I almost died in Africa back in the late 90s. I wound up with some bad water. I wound up with amoebic dysentery and giardia at the same time. Yeah, if they would have had another EOD tech, they would have evacuated me to Germany. But I was the only EOD tech, so the SF doc kept me alive. And yeah, that was probably the most miserable 2 weeks of my life. Now, so I've gone down the rabbit hole on water big time because, I have a vested interest in it. So these guys, I've looked at a lot of these guys' stuff. I've gone through a lot of this stuff. And of course, you have two different parts of water, right? You have filtration, which is where Sawyer comes in, and you have purification, right? Now, these are not the same. So in my field gear, I always carry Sawyer, and now because JJ got me into it, I carry Grail. But the Sawyer stuff has probably the most solid quality control that you're going to find. So there's other brands out there who we're not going to name just yet. I mean, I may later, but they, because I despise them anyway. They claim all these things, and the original stuff that was inspected. Oh yeah, that's absolutely true. But their quality control is completely absent. The stuff is made in China. It's garbage when you cut into it. It will you hook into dirty water, and that stuff comes out dirty. Unlike the Sawyers, which is why those blue ones, they don't have a back flush in them. The Sawyers, they all come with a great big back flush syringe for a reason, because you can get them plugged up. Now, personally, I keep one of those kits. I keep a water bag inside my rucksack, and it's got right there. You go. There's your back flush syringe. I keep this bag. I can fill it with 1.5 gallons of water. It flows down into a Sawyer. I always pre-filter, of course, before it goes into there. It goes through the Sawyer and directly into my Camelback, or whichever water bladder we happen to be using. So, and no, I don't mean the blue Sawyers. I mean there's a brand that all their stuff is only blue. So Laura Larson, that's what I mean. Yeah. We are only there's a difference between Sawyer and other people's stuff. And believe me, their stuff is good. Grail is great as well, but none of the filtration stops you from doing purification. You still need to purify even after you have filtered.
Yeah. And we use tablets for that. So we've got, and you have to be, conservative with them. You want enough that it'll kill organisms, but you don't want so much that it tastes like crap, because I've done that.
It depends on the water that you're working with.
Sure does.
And the initial quality of the water is a thing, and it also depends on what your assets are. If you've already got fire and stuff going, if you have to choose between purification and filtration, right? If you can only do one of them, just do purification. Pour the dirty water into your bottle and cook it, right? Boil that stuff. So what? You get some twigs and some bark and some mud in there. Oh, well, it won't kill you because it's sterile now. But filtration and then purification, chef's kiss.
So I'll give you an example, like you said, with regards to the water source. So our home in Georgia, that's at the top of the mountain, like we're the last home on a private road, there's a natural water source maybe 20 yards away from our home, and I've tested the water out of it, and it is absolutely pristine. There is no need to purify it. There's no need to filter it. Clearly, if the shit hits the fan, you probably won't find a water source like that. But what Mike's getting at is when you look at water and it's murky, that's called turbidity. And the filters like the Sawyers will take that turbidity out.
Suspended solids.
Yeah, exactly. So end of story on that. We've got some content coming up on Sawyer. And yes, Sawyer make blue and red ones, just to be clear. So it's not Sawyer blue. It's Sawyer are good products. I want to add too, by the way, Mike, I don't know if you know this. They are super altruistic. They donate a ton of money and products to nonprofits. I don't remember what the number is, but it's astronomical what they send to Africa every year. These are really, really good people, number one. Number two, the products are made in Tampa, Florida, other side of my state. American owned, American made, super high quality, very altruistic, very strong values and beliefs like we have. Go ahead, Mike.
So you're saying that it's berry compliant.
There you go.
There you go. As opposed to the other ones that are made on the other side of the Pacific Ocean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So the last sponsor to bring up, and these are our premier sponsor, is Advantage Gold. They've booked me to do a free webinar next week, November 21st, 7 p.m. Eastern, on what I've identified as the top 5 preps that you need to do right now before January the 20th rolls around, with the anticipation that we're probably going to see at the very least terrorist attacks, but it could be even worse than that. Our grid's vulnerable. And again, I'm not a doomsday prepper, but you got to realize that our grid is not only vulnerable to kinetic attacks, it's vulnerable to cyber attacks. You know, they're called logical attacks over the network. This content will only be on this webinar. Here's the cool thing. If you go and sign up for this, whether you attend or not, we get a small stipend at Survival Dispatch, which is very, very much appreciated. For the record, I fund Survival Dispatch out of my own pocket and have done so since I acquired the company. And I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of it, but I have pumped easily $250,000 in the past few years just into content creation. So if you can just do us a solid, first link in the description below, sign up for it. Again, whether you attend or not, it's a great way to support us. Allows us to keep working the way we do. I mean, Survival Dispatch News alone, 7 days a week. We have all the other shows, you know, On 3 with Jason Sawyer, Fuel the Fires with JJ Moore, Stoker-matic with Bill Stoker, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of moving parts to our company. And at the end of the day, our job is to dispatch information so our fellow Americans and friends of America can survive in these uncertain times. The amount of time that it takes is pretty significant. I personally spend somewhere between 4 and 6 hours per brief preparing them for everybody. So that's another way that you can also help Survival Dispatch. Sign up for our Patreon, patreon.com/Survival Dispatch. If you can't afford it, whatever, the free membership will get you 50% of the content. It'll get you the briefs so that you, in your own time, you can go back and read articles. And there's actually stuff in the briefs that doesn't make it into the episodes because it's too long. We would be on air. We've actually received a number of requests from people if we could go the Sean Ryan way and do 5-hour broadcasts every day. And yeah, the answer is no. So
yeah, no, we need a whole development team for that crap. No, and you ain't getting me on there more than twice a week at that rate.
Yeah, it's I appreciate it was very kind comments though when they make them like that. Suffice it to say, we work 7 days a week on this stuff, and any support is much appreciated. And for the people who do pay $9.99 a month over at Patreon, you get behind the scenes content, you get early access to content. And ironically, and Mike will attest to this, I'll let him speak to it in a second, we put out a notice to our insiders and said, hey, if you're using Signal, the Signal app on your phone for encrypted messaging, let us know. Send an email to support@survivaldispatch.com with your cell phone number, and we will send you an invite to a private group chat. And if and when the day comes where we need to, you know, distribute intel to our insiders and the data network's still up, but other things are down, that was the intended purpose for the Signal group. Mike, what's it turned into now?
My God, good grief. I'm on there so much. Everybody, I have never asked and answered so many questions, but it actually has turned into a wonderful human intelligence resource.
Mm-hmm.
S2 is just, man, he's just tearing it up.
Killing it.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's an unintended effect, but we're happy with it. I love seeing the volume of traffic. I got to tell you today, Mike, I've been so freaking busy. 3 times I have looked at Signal and it's been like 100, 150 unread messages. And there's no way I'm going to get caught up. So I mark them all as read. And then I come back a couple hours later, another 150, 200. I walk away for a couple hours, come back, and there's another 150, 200. It is a super active group. And I could not be happier at the adoption rate and the information that's being shared amongst the Survival Dispatch community.
Welcome to my world. Try sitting in a business meeting with a phone sitting there vibrating under your butt the entire time.
Right. All right, Mike, have you got a conflicted question pulled up by chance?
I do have a conflicted question, and it's actually a cool one that I don't think we've ever done before.
All right.
Yeah, this is a weird one. Okay, hey, Emmy Waters, 35. Thank you so much. You're awesome. We appreciate you, man.
Very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the conflicted question of the day, folks. Well, I'm going to skip a whole lot of the stuff because, yeah. It's just the two of us, but we want to hear from you guys out there in the in the audience, right? If you're out there, come on, please. We want to hear from you guys. Put your answers in the comments section. Get in there, argue about it. Come on, I get bored, okay? I get bored easily.
Let me add a quick comment, Mike. I have read multiple conflicted answers from our audience that I learned something from. There's so much value in other people's perspectives, and it's been great in that way as well.
Yeah. And okay, so we used to have a saying when I was teaching that the teacher not only gives knowledge, the teacher receives knowledge as well. And there's no better way to learn a task than to teach it, because you will learn a billion ways to do it.
Right on.
Okay, so here we go. Okay, the survival group you belong to has lots of children. What are 3 essential life skills that every child should know in today's current society? What are 3 other skills you would add to their education in a post-apocalyptic world?
Okay, so 3 essential skills and 3 non-essential skills.
Well, three essential skills in today's society, and then what 3 skills in a post-apocalyptic world?
Oh, okay.
And you can have some overlap, but let's hear it, folks. I want to hear from everybody. Tell me what you think. I need 3 skills for before and 3 skills for after collapse. Ready?
So
go.
It's ironic that the doc would mention people not being able to read maps. I've seen a number of articles and studies where if somebody's, say, 35 and younger, odds are that they don't know how to read a map. And so I actually would put that on my list, whether it came up tonight or not, because if you lose your sense of direction and you don't know how to read a map, man, you're going to be in trouble. Imagine being dropped in the middle of the desert with no map, no nothing, and trying to find your way home. People will disagree with me on the next one, but I'm a firm believer that you teach youngins at a very early age how to use guns. It takes the mystery away from them, and it's also a skill that'll stick with them the rest of your life. And there's one that crosses over to the post-apocalyptic world as far as that's concerned. The next piece that I would make is that I would teach them how to differentiate between edible and non-edible stuff. So, and that crosses over to post-apocalyptic as well. And I mean, you can go without foods for an extended period of time, but let me tell you, it doesn't take long going without food that things start falling apart mentally. It's just like water. They say you can go 3 days without water. By day 2, you've usually lost your marbles, and you're not functioning very well. So teaching them how to provide for themselves in that way. But those are the 3 I've got with 2 overlaps.
Okay, I got a good one here from MM Prepper 45. Hygiene. Just from the perspective of a former parent, you can teach them that all day, but by God, are they going to do it? You can't make them do it. Well, sometime you can, but yeah. That's a good one. I love it. Okay. Okay. Hey, so you know what? I'm seeing a mountain of great answers out of Rumble, and I'm hardly seeing anything out of you knuckleheads over in YouTube land. Come on, let's hear something. And nothing from anybody on X. Come on, I'm not hearing anything from you folks. All right, I'm seeing a little bit about it. All right. Okay. So here's my 3.
Quick comment, Mike. We've got 2 YouTube channels, and ironically, the big one with 400,000 people hasn't been super active comment-wise, but the small one for SDM that has 3,500 has been very active.
Yeah, I know. I watch both of them. I watch them over here on our live chat.
Yeah, same thing. That's what I'm looking at when you see me looking over here and up here.
Yeah. God, I've got all these windows open all over the place. I don't know what way's up. One Thess 411. How do I verify that I have a spot for the webinar? I filled out the form and have gotten no feedback. Am I missing something?
You should get a confirmation email from them. And if you didn't get a confirmation email from them, go ahead and just fill it out again. Thank you very much, by the way. And if you don't get a confirmation back on that, send me an email, support@survivaldispatch.com, and we'll get that addressed.
Okay, so mine. Let's see. I'm gonna go with, of course, navigation, right? And navigation not only by reading maps, but also navigating by the stars and the sun. Okay, that's a thing. Water skills, of course. You know how to find, clean, get good water, because dirty water has killed more people throughout history than religion and cancer combined. Let's see. Engineering skills, how to build, how to repair. That's a thing. And then for my post-apocalyptic, of course, the navigation and the water still, but also how to talk to people, negotiating skills and the like. I'm just adding those on because, everything else seems self-evident. But yeah, there's a lot of people that just plain don't know how to have a honest, easy conversation with other people. So yeah,
this is true. So we're ready to
go. Yep, 99999, emotional intelligence, to be able to identify personal strengths and weaknesses and identify friend and foe. Good one.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we wrap up here, I just got to convert this image that my nephew just sent me. But this is a good sized buck he just got. Check this out. And there's that dreaded white stuff on the ground up north right now too. So check that out.
Just by seeing the picture, it shuts down Florida, right?
Yeah,
nice.
Something like that.
Small rack, big deer. That's okay.
Yeah, I don't know what the poundage is on him, but he's pretty good sized boy there. All right. So Mike, unless you got something else, I think that's it. I think mission accomplished for tonight. Good to go.
I think we've spent enough time on this.
All right. Well, everybody out there, we appreciate you very much. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. God bless America.
If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.